Good morning, church. Well, I hope you're doing well. Jim Black here. This is week 2 of what one friend referred to as hunker in the bunker. We hope you're having a great week, a good day, and making the most of every opportunity that you have to spend with family, with friends, with your God in worship. I want to share some thoughts to you this morning for your worship time, and again encouraging all of our members to continue worshiping in small groups with your family, continue serving, continue loving one another, and serving and loving your neighbor, serving your neighbor. It seems these days we are experiencing a good number of new words, adding a number of new words to our vocabulary, social distancing being one of them. It seems that everybody is social distancing now. I came across this slide just the other day. It does make finding Waldo a lot easier, doesn't it? And it seems like everybody is social distancing. We've learned a lot, as I said, of new vocabulary words throughout this ordeal. I want to share with you some thoughts, though. Seriously, this can be a frightening time for all of us. The things that we are seeing on the news daily going on, not only in our community, but around the world, are frightening times. And it can't help but create a sense of anxiety, of anxiousness among us. And for those of you who may deal with this on a daily basis, you know how difficult it can be. But for all of us, it seems, here in the last several days and weeks, anxiety is affecting us. The Apostle Paul, in writing to the church at Philippi, said this, Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. See if I can get this on the screen. "Do not be anxious about anything," he wrote, "but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." What a beautiful sentiment. You realize the Apostle Paul, writing from a jail cell as he wrote the letter to the Philippians, says, don't be anxious. Don't be anxious about anything. We know anxiety can be a real problem, don't we? As I said, those who are used to dealing with it on a regular basis know the problem that anxiety can bring. Anxiety it diminishes our capacity to focus. Maybe you've experienced that this week. I sure have. Since getting back from Arizona, I have had so much work to do, and I've been in my office trying to focus. But so much of the time, it has been so hard, and I find my mind just wandering in so many different directions. Things that I should be doing, things that I forgot to do, things that I can't do right now. My mind keeps darting around in so many different directions, and the more my mind races, the more anxious I get. And that anxiety level just continues to rise. When we're anxious, our ability to think clearly diminishes as well. That's why in times of anxiety, our thinking can become entrenched and polarized even. We lose the ability to think imaginatively and creatively. Solutions to situations, problems that we encounter become very difficult for us to think about in terms other than just clear black and white. In times of anxiety, playfulness subsides, which is one of the reasons I still try to have a good laugh every day. Anxiety isn't good for us. It affects our bodies physically as well, stress, our blood pressure. And when I'm anxious, I don't know about you, but I eat, and I eat poorly. And that affects our body too. I was talking with a brother just the other day, and we were talking about how he had realized after several days his jaw had started hurting. And he'd realized he was letting the anxiety that he was living in create stress in him. He was walking around with clenched jaw everywhere he went. It can be a real problem. In short, anxiety can cripple us, paralyze us from any kind of normal functioning. And folks who deal with chronic anxiety on a regular basis will tell you that easy answers don't help. There are no simple solutions, no quick fixes. And especially with the anxiety that we are dealing with currently, that is lasting for weeks now and looks to last for a few more. So what can we do to help? What can we do to help? I love this story in the life of Jesus. In Mark chapter 4, here it is. In Mark chapter 4, verses 35 through 41, John Mark writes this about Jesus. He says, "On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, 'Let us go,' that is Jesus, 'let us go across to the other side.' And leaving the crowd, they took with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, 'Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?' And he awoke and rebuked the wind, and he said to the sea, 'Peace, be still.' And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to them, 'Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?' And they were filled with great fear, and said to one another, 'Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?'" Wow. I love that story in the life of Jesus here. Imagine how bad of a storm that this had to have been for these disciples to have been so totally freaked out like they were, so totally afraid. These were seasoned fishermen. This was not their first time out in a boat. Certainly they had seen storms before. Surely they had been out on the water when a squall broke out. I don't imagine these guys were easily frightened, do you? So you know it had to be bad. And as bad as it was, Jesus was asleep. He was asleep. The winds are blowing, the waves are beating against the boat, rocking it back and forth, I imagine. I imagine there was lightning and thunder. There's usually those things associated with great storms. And water's filling up inside the boat. You know, the disciples are screaming, and Jesus is asleep. Asleep on a cushion in the stern. Now, how in the world could Jesus be sleeping? "Lord, don't you care that we're about to drown?" his disciples asked. And, you know, we decry the disciples' lack of faith, but that's probably what I'd be saying too. "Jesus, don't you care? Don't you see the water? Don't you care that we're about to die?" And Jesus stands up. Well, actually, no, it doesn't say that. It says he wakes up, and then he says to the wind and the waves, "Peace, be still." And it was. And it was. And the disciples are amazed. "Who is this?" they asked, "that even the winds and the waves obey him?" Wow. Don't you wish that you could sleep through the storm? Don't you wish you could sleep through the difficult time that we are having? Don't you wish you had that sense of peace that Jesus had? That you could just lay down, take a nap, maybe wake up when it's all over? Have you wished that? I don't know that I can offer that to you this morning. But I do want to offer a couple of quick and real suggestions that I believe will help all of us. 3, actually. It's not a real sermon without 3 points. Number 1, stay calm. Stay calm. The world is going crazy around us. Stay calm. That's what Jesus did. That was His example. He stayed calm. In fact, so calm He was asleep. But nonetheless, it gives us something to look to. It gives us an example to strive to. In fact, I'd suggest that the greatest thing that you can do for yourself and for your family, for those around you, is to present to them a non-anxious presence. In the words of Edwin Friedman, the leader's own presence is the most powerful tool you have to affect those around you. I would say that to those of you who are parents. The most powerful thing you can give your children during this time of uncertainty is to be calm. Is to present to them a non-anxious presence. Be present, but don't let them see your anxiety. Todd Bolsinger, in his book, Canoeing the Mountains, I've talked about it many times already this year. He writes, for the leader, he's talking to church leaders, he says, it is critical to monitor our own emotional reactivity when the anxiety within the church rises. The calm leader is self-aware, committed to the mission. The mission trumps everything, and focuses on his or her own self in the transformation process. And again, he's talking to church leaders churches going through difficult times. But in other words, stay calm. Keep on keeping on. Number 2, stay connected. Stay connected to Jesus, most importantly. Stay in the boat with Him. I can't help but notice in this text that when things started looking a little rough at sea, the disciples immediately looked to Jesus. Well, of course they did. What else would they have done? Well, have we looked to Jesus? And not just so He'll stop the storm either, but sometimes He does that, for sure. Sometimes He doesn't. Sometimes He allows us to experience the storm. In fact, Jesus doesn't here, nor does He anywhere, ever promise us that He'll stop the storm. What He does promise us is that He will go with us through the storm. And I will be with you always, He said, even unto the end of the age. So the Apostle Paul wrote, do not be anxious about anything, but by prayer and supplication and with thanksgiving, make your requests be known to God. It's okay. Yes, it's okay. Even good for us to pray that God would protect us, that He would bring an end to this particular storm, that He would bring healing to those who've been affected by this virus, that He would bring protection upon our families, upon our church, upon our community. And I believe it is certainly within His power to do so, and that's what I'm praying for. That's what I'm praying for. But prayer has another function as well, and I don't want to forget that. Prayer is a way of us connecting with the Father, with the one who has the power to calm the storm. A colleague woke me up to this just the other day. She said she was really trying to stay centered and focused on God and finding it to be very difficult to do so. But she was doing that through the practice of the spiritual disciplines, through the disciplines of prayer, through Bible reading, through maybe even journaling or meditation. Think about the spiritual disciplines. They can be very helpful in keeping us centered and keeping us calm amidst the storm. It's not a magical solution. It doesn't promise. It doesn't promise to stop what's happening around us. But if peace comes from God, why wouldn't we do everything that we can do to pursue Him in this moment, in these moments that we're experiencing now, to pursue Him and practice those disciplines which draw us closer to Him? That's where peace comes from, the peace that passes understanding. And finally, as I said, it's not a sermon without 3 points. Stay calm, stay connected to God, stay in the boat with Jesus. Number 3, stay positive. Stay positive. Look for positives to be thankful for. Paul said, "And with thankfulness, let your requests be known to God." Paul speaks of thankfulness there, even as he sits in a cold Roman prison. Thankfulness itself is a spiritual discipline, isn't it? Thankfulness serves to remind us of all the ways God has blessed us. I've been really encouraged by so many of you I've seen on social media posting words of encouragement, posting positive thoughts, using those social media platforms to encourage one another, looking to share the good that God is doing through this process. And I have no doubt that God is accomplishing much good. He is. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the good that we're seeing. I know God is going to do and is doing a great work here. I don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but in the words of my friend David Young, I know that God is going to snatch a great victory out of all of this. And I look forward to seeing that. So let's pray, church, for that. And let's remember to be thankful for all that we have. Even amidst the disruption that has come with all of this, I'm thankful for the time I've gotten to spend with family. Andy's home from college. All the kids are in the house, and as loud as it sometimes gets. I'm thankful for the time that we're having together. Whether it's sitting in the living room watching movies or ducking Nerf darts as the boys have a Nerf gun war in the living room. I'm thankful for these family times. Look for ways to be thankful. Look for things that God's doing through this in your family, in your life, in the life of this church. I'm convinced as we've reached out and tried to connect with members of this church, we've probably connected in stronger ways than we have in a long time. And that's something to be thankful for. As always, church, if you are in need of prayer, if you'd like to talk more with myself or one of our shepherds more about this peace that passes understanding, we would love to talk with you about that. There's email, there's Facebook, just pick up the old-fashioned telephone and call the office during the week. We would really love to connect with you and to pray. And as we're praying for an end to this time of disruption, if you have a need, or if you know of anyone in our church family who has a need, or you have a neighbor who has a need, please don't hesitate to let us know. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord turn His face towards you and give you peace. May God bless you as you go this morning.